I have been reborn. Back to the day when Su Qingying. Her father threw a 10 million yuan check in my face. In my past life, I tore up the check. But in return, I got a cold, contemptuous smile on her lips, and Su Qingying's increasingly icy gaze. 10 years after that, I lived humbly like dust, trying to chase after her shadow. Finally, at a business banquet, to protect her, I was stabbed to death by a rival, in a dark alley. Before I died, the last image I saw was still her emotionless face, as if I were just an unimportant stranger. This time, I don't want to be a licking dog until I have nothing left. So, I calmly reached out and took that check. I looked up at Su Jiangguo. A bright smile appeared on my face, even showing some gratitude. Thank you, uncle. The voice wasn't loud, but it echoed like thunder. In this luxurious VIP room. Su Jiangguo had a belly full of words prepared, but now they were all stuck in his throat. The dignified expression on his face immediately turned to astonishment. He had probably thought of 100 ways I would refuse, but he never expected I would smile and say thank you. The mocking smile on Zhao Hue's face beside them froze instantly, like a duck being suddenly strangled. As for Su Qingying, the ever-arrogant ice goddess, who never showed her emotions. For the first time, a crack appeared on her eternally frozen face. Her pupils contracted slightly, her lips parted, but no sound came out. I carefully folded the check and tucked it into the pocket of my faded jeans. Then I stood up and bowed to Su Jiangguo. Please rest assured, uncle, starting today, I will absolutely not actively bother Su Qingying, Miss Su anymore. After saying that, I turned to Su Qingying. I've bothered you for the past 3 years. I'm truly sorry. I wish you a bright future and smooth sailing. Su Qingying's body trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. She finally truly looked at me. In those beautiful eyes, there was no longer coldness, but a dense, unshakable disbelief. Without waiting for her to speak, I turned to leave. Chen An, I thought you had some backbone. Turns out, you're just a spineless coward whose eyes light up at the sight of money. Selling 10 years of feelings for 10 million yuan. You're truly pathetic. My footsteps halted. In my previous life, these exact words made me lose control with anger. I rushed in to fight him, and ended up being beaten half to death by his bodyguards. It ended miserably, but this time, I just calmly turned back to look at him. There was no anger in my eyes, only a faint pity. Second, young master, you must be joking. First, it wasn't 10 years. It was 13 years. Second, it wasn't feelings. It was my one-sided obsession. Third, this isn't selling out. It's reasonable compensation from Chairman Su for my hard work over the past 3 years. After all, to be a proper licking dog, it also takes time and effort. This 10 million is neither too much nor too little, it's just right. I opened the door of the VIP room, the heavy wooden door, and walked out without looking back. Behind me was a dead silence. Stepping out of the hotel, the lingering sunlight made my eyes sting. I took out the check. Those numbers were so real they could make a person cry. To hell with love. To hell with self-respect. I've already lived one dark life. This time, I'm not loving anyone. I only love money. I didn't go to the bank to cash the check immediately. An old fox like Su Jiangguo could very well have played a trick with the check. For example, putting a hold on it, or simply giving me a dud check, just waiting to see me make a fool of myself. A clever scheme. Su Jiangguo. I hailed a car back to my rented room in the slums. Dark and damp, less than 10 square meters. The air was filled with the smell of instant noodles and must. This was the home I gritted my teeth and lived in for 3 years in my past life, just to be closer to Su Qingying's school. I opened my old laptop, which I've used for 5 years. The screen lagged for a long time before lighting up. I wasn't in a hurry to do anything. I just leaned back in my chair and started to think about the economy. Thinking back, being reborn once, what's the greatest weapon? It's information. The economic trends for the next 10 years, which stocks will skyrocket, which industries will rise, I know them all clearly. I opened the stock market software and skillfully entered a stock code. Tengfei Technology. I remember very clearly, tomorrow, this small, unremarkable company will announce a chip technology patent, causing its stock price to soar from 5 yuan to 200 yuan. I picked up my phone and called Su Qingying. Your things at my place, I packed them all up and left them at the door. You can send someone to pick them up anytime. Also, I'm changing my phone number, so there's no need to contact me anymore. Without waiting for her to reply, I hung up immediately, took out the SIM card, broke it in half, and threw it in the trash. The world was finally quiet. Early the next morning, I went straight to the bank. Unexpectedly, cashing the check went very smoothly. Not until a phone notification showed a short string of new numbers in my account did I truly believe my life was about to start over. Without a moment's hesitation, I transferred all 9.9 million yuan into my stock account and went all in on Tengfei Technology's stock. When I walked out of the stock exchange, I suddenly felt a sense of relief. Next, all I had to do was wait. I didn't go back to that musty rented room. Instead, I went to the best hotel in the city center and rented a high-end suite. Soaking in the bathtub, drinking chilled champagne, looking out at the bustling city view from the window, I felt a bit dazed. In my previous life, I could only stand outside hotels like this, looking up at the lights on the top floor, imagining Su Qingying attending some lavish party inside. Just as I was lost in thought, ding, the phone chimed. It was a message from an unknown number. It's Su Qingying. Chenan, where are you? The things I gave you, did you throw them all away? It seems she went to the trouble of finding my new number. The things she gave me were just trinkets she didn't want. A pen, a notebook. Every time she gave them to me, it was like giving alms to a beggar. I was so stupid back then, treating them like treasures. I didn't reply. I just blocked the number. Next, I called the hotel's room service. Hello, please arrange for 2 professional masseuses. In this life, I have to treat myself well. The following week, I lived the leisurely days I had once dreamed of. Every day, I slept until I woke up naturally, enjoying an exquisite breakfast at the hotel's rooftop restaurant. In the afternoon, I'd hit the gym or the pool to kill time. At night, I experienced the high-end nightlife of Yuncheng. I got rid of my cheap clothes and jeans and bought a well-fitted suit. Clothes make the man. That saying is not wrong at all. When I wore the exquisitely tailored suit with a Patek Philippe on my wrist and stepped into any high-end place, I was greeted only with humble smiles and attentive service. No more scrutinizing or contemptuous glances. Money is indeed a man's most solid support. As for Tengfei Technology stock, I couldn't even be bothered to look at it. That night, I invited 2 hot models for drinks at Yunding Tiangong, Yuncheng's top private club. The music was deafening, shadows swayed. The air was a mix of the smell of money and hormones. In my previous life, I didn't even have the right to step in here. Now, I was sitting at the best VP table, receiving all kinds of stares. Young Master On, have another drink. The model next to me coquettishly pressed closer. I smiled and pinched her cheek. Before I could even speak, I caught a familiar figure in the corner of my eye. Su Qingying. Why is she here? Next to her was Zhao Hui, along with a few unfamiliar rich second-generation kids. Zhao Hui was boasting about something, spitting as he spoke. As for Su Qingying, her face was as cold as ever, out of place amidst the surrounding noise. She also saw me, and the moment our eyes met, a flash of surprise appeared in her eyes, a hint of doubt, and also disgust. That's right, disgust. In her eyes, someone like me, who took her father's money to live lavishly, was probably no different from trash. Zhao Hui followed her gaze. Immediately after, an exaggerated sneer appeared on his face. He pushed through the crowd and strode towards me. Isn't this Chenan, the famous great romantic Chenan? Zhao Hui's voice was very loud, intentionally attracting the attention of everyone around. What's this? You took Uncle Su's 10 million to come here and enjoy yourself. Do you feel like you've reached the peak of your life? The people behind him also burst out laughing. They all mocked me, calling me a licking dog, and said I sold myself for 10 million, a disgrace to men. The 2 models beside me looked awkward. They wanted to get up, but I gently held them back, signaling them not to move. I raised my glass, slowly swirling, the whiskey inside. I didn't even bother looking at him. Zhao Hui, young Master Zhao, long time no see. Is the family business still doing okay? I heard some of the Zhao Group's overseas projects seem to be having some trouble. What nonsense are you talking about? I took a sip of my drink. The Seaport project in Southeast Asia, it was abandoned due to changes in local policy, right? And wasn't the European Chip Agency rights snatched away by Xiangxi Capital? These 2 deals, that's at least a 500 million loss, right? All this information was from financial news I read in my past life. Hearing this, Zhao Hui's forehead immediately broke out in a cold sweat. This was all internal company secrets. Besides the board of directors, basically no one knew. How could this loser possibly know? You investigated me? I put down my glass and finally looked him straight in the eye. Young Master Zhao, you think too highly of yourself. You're not worthy yet. I stood up, half a head taller than him. Looking down on him, my eyes were full of contempt. Worry about your own mess. Don't be like a mad dog all day biting everyone you see. The surrounding laughter gradually died down. Everyone realized something was wrong with the atmosphere. Zhao Hui was overwhelmed by my presence. His mouth moved, but he couldn't say a word. His face turned red then white, looking extremely ugly. I paid him no more mind. I took a wad of cash from my wallet and placed it on the table. You've worked hard, ladies. Get a cab home yourselves. After saying that, I adjusted my suit and collar and walked straight past Zhao Hui. When I passed Su Qingying, I paused for a moment. The surprise in her eyes was even deeper than in the VIP room. She probably couldn't understand how the poor, humble boy from a few days ago could suddenly become so unfamiliar, so sharp. I smirked at her, a smile full of meaning. Classmate Su, you should have better judgment of character. After saying that, I turned and left, leaving behind a resolute back and a crowd of gawking people. It's not that you're unreachable. It's just that now I can't be bothered to look up anymore. Leaving the club, I didn't go back to the hotel. Instead, I drove straight to the airport. Yuncheng, this place holds too much of my suffering from my previous life. Now that I have my first pot of gold, it's time to move somewhere else to start a new life. The plane took off at dawn. The destination was Modu, a major international city where gold and opportunities are everywhere. On the plane, I turned off my phone, leaned back in first class, and fell asleep in the comfortable seat. When I opened my eyes again, the plane had already landed at Pudong International Airport. Stepping out of the airport, breathing in the dangerous air of Modu, I felt like a reborn warrior. I wasn't in a hurry to buy a house, but at Thompson Riviera, the most luxurious serviced apartment hotel by the Huangpu River, I rented a long-term apartment. Standing before the 360-degree panoramic glass window, looking down at the magnificent night view of the Bund, I knew this was my real stage. The next day, as soon as the stock market opened, I received a call from my stockbroker. His voice was trembling with excitement. "Mr. Chen, it's up. Tangfei technology has hit its limit up. I just gave an indifferent, 'Mom, keep holding. Don't touch it until it hits 150. After hanging up, I started planning my next step. Relying only on stocks is just fast money. The foundation isn't stable. I want to build my own business empire. Based on my memories from my past life, I knew that in the next few years, internet, healthcare, new energy, cars, and artificial intelligence would be the three leading industries. I spent a week creating a detailed business plan. I wanted to establish an investment firm, specifically targeting these potential startups. A month later, Tangfei Technology's stock price, just as I predicted, soared wildly to 150 yuan. The money in my account also went from the initial 9.9 million to a figure that made even me gasp in astonishment. 300 million. I didn't hesitate to sell all the shares. Securing the profit. With this startup capital, my Wangchao Capital officially established an office in Modu, located right on the top floor of the Global Financial Center in Lujiazui. I started recruiting talent. Using salaries much higher than the industry average, I poached the best analysts and traders from major investment banks. At first, those elites were a bit skeptical of a kid in his early 20s like me. But after I accurately predicted the crash of the US stock market 3 times and led them to short sell, earning $50 million in a single day, everyone fell silent. Their gazes towards me changed from suspicion to awe and finally into fervent worship. In their eyes, I wasn't the boss. I was a god. My life also became increasingly busy. Every day there were endless meetings, countless reports to read, and too many people to meet. I gradually forgot about Yuncheng, forgot about Su Qingying, and forgot that terrible past. Until one day, my secretary handed me an invitation. Next week at the Shenzhen Exhibition Center, there will be an international business summit. This is an invitation from the organizing committee. I took it and glanced at it casually. When my eyes fell on the list of co-organizers, my fingers paused slightly. The Su group is like a lingering ghost. Help me decline. The secretary looked a little troubled. This summit is very large-scale. Nearly half of the global top 500 companies are attending. Moreover, Mr. Li from the organizing committee specifically requested your presence. Mr. Li? The son of the richest man in Hong Kong and also the organizer of this summit. I frowned. I only saw this person in the news in my past life, and now he's specifically asking to meet me. It seems the reputation of my Wangchao Capital has spread far in Modu. Then I'll make a trip. I want to see what kind of expressions the Su family will have when we meet again. Besides, I've prepared a big gift for them. A week later, I boarded the plane to the conference venue as scheduled. After landing, I went straight to the destination. But unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the hall, Zhao Hui came storming towards me. "What the hell did you do?" Looking at the scrutinizing gazes around, Zhao Hui was like a gambler who had lost everything, gripping the collar of my suit. His breathing was heavy, his hands trembling violently. Just now, he must have received news that the Zhao Group's seaport project had completely stalled. "Chen An, what the hell did you do?" I looked down at that trembling hand. Half a month ago, he was still an arrogant young master, but now, in my eyes, he was just a dancing clown. I wasn't angry, only a calm that seemed to see through everything. "Young Master Zhao, this suit is very expensive. You probably can afford to replace it now." I reached out and grabbed his wrist, twisting it with a bit of force. He screamed in pain and pathetically let go. I calmly straightened my wrinkled collar. This feeling of being in control is so much better than the pathetic begging in my past life. Wangchao Capital. Where did you get the capital? How could you know my family's trump card? For that, you have to thank the 10 million Uncle Su gave me, which allowed me to seize the opportunity with Tangfei Technology. Zhao Hui froze on the spot, his face pale. He probably never would have dreamed that the money his father used to humiliate me would become the first shovel of dirt to bury the Zhao family. At this moment, Su Qingying, wearing a white dress, stepped out from the crowd. Her eyes were full of astonishment. "Chen An, do you have to be so ruthless?" I turned my head to look at this face of hers, which I had deeply loved for 10 years. But now, there wasn't a single ripple in my heart. Miss Su, business is war. When Zhao Hui was suppressing me back then, you didn't think he was being ruthless. Su Qingying's lips moved, but she couldn't say a word. I ignored them. And under everyone's gaze, I walked into the banquet hall, towards the VIP area deeper inside. Stop barking like a mad dog. You're no longer worthy of being my opponent now. I walked towards Mr. Li, the son of Hong Kong's richest man, and gently clinked glasses with him. Zhao Hui collapsed to the ground. The surrounding chatter submerged him like a tide. In the lounge, it was so quiet you could only hear the clinking of ice cubes against the glass. Mr. Li sat opposite me, his eyes filled with admiration. Our talk went very smoothly. Guangzhou Capital will cooperate with the Li Group to develop a new energy project. I knew that once I took this step, I would be completely stable. Mr. Chen, the younger generation is truly formidable. The Zhao family's piece of the pie. You swallowed it perfectly. I was just going with the flow, Mr. Li. You flatter me. After seeing Mr. Li off, I was about to leave the lounge when the door was pushed open again. Su Qingying stood at the door. She no longer had the cold expression from the banquet hall. In her eyes was a weariness and regret I had never seen before. Chen An, can we talk for a moment? Not about business, just talking. I sat back down on the sofa and poured myself a glass of water. In my previous life, if I had heard this tone from her, I would probably have died of a broken heart. But now, I just find it a waste of time. Miss Su, I have a multinational conference call this afternoon. You only have 3 minutes. You never used to call me that. That 10 million? My father just wanted to test you. He didn't think he would drive you away. Hearing this, I almost burst out laughing. A test? Throwing 10 million in my face, watching me get thrown out by bodyguards? You call that a test? If you're here to say this nonsense, then you can leave. Miss Su, you deserve it. Thanks for that 10 million. He made me realize that dignity is indeed more valuable than love. Su Qingying froze on the spot. Tears welled up in her eyes. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked straight past her. As I passed by, I didn't even turn my head, not even glancing at her. Miss Su, let's not bring up matters of the heart again in the future. Between us, there's only business left. I walked out of the lounge, the sunlight shining on me, feeling unusually warm. I discovered that after letting go of that obsession, even the air became fresher. On the 3rd day after returning to Modu, I received a call from Su Jiangguo. His voice no longer held the authority it had half a month ago, but carried an unconcealable anxiety. I sat in my office on the top floor of Guangzhou Capital, looking down at the river view of the Bund, and casually pressed the speakerphone button. Chen An, what on earth are you trying to do? You stole the Zhao family's project, and now you're maliciously acquiring the Su Group's scattered shares. Uncle Su, you taught me that in the business world, there are only interests. I find the Su Group's stocks to be a very valuable investment. Is there a problem with that? The sound of shattering glass came from the other end of the line. Clearly, this Chairman Su was not just slightly angry. In my past life, he treated me like dirt, thinking I would never be able to hold my head up high. But now, his life is in my hands. You're taking revenge. You want to destroy the Su family because of Qingying. You're overestimating Miss Su. Revenge? No. I'm just making a profitable business deal. I hung up the phone and directly added his number to the blacklist. I watched the stock prices constantly jumping on the computer screen, feeling unusually calm inside. The Su Group has looked glamorous these past few years, but it's rotten on the inside. The internal audits were already full of loopholes. I just need to give it a little push, and this empire will crumble to dust. President Chen, Miss Su Qingying, is downstairs saying, she insists on seeing you. I rubbed the Patek Philippe on my wrist, the corners of my mouth curving into a smirk. Half a month ago, I didn't even have the right to step through the Su family's main gate. Half a month later, the great miss of the Su family has to wait miserably outside my office door. Let her wait. Wait until I'm done reading this report. I lifted my coffee cup for a sip, the bitter taste spreading on my tongue, but it made me feel unprecedentedly fortunate. I want to make Su Jiangguo understand what kind of consequences the 10 million he threw out back then has ultimately bought him. 2 hours later, Su Qingying finally walked into my office. She looked much more haggard. Her usual exquisite makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. She was tightly clutching a folder. It was the Su Group's last distress signal. Chen An, consider it as me begging you, please stop. My father's health isn't good. If the Su Group collapses, he won't be able to take it. I swiveled my chair around, looking at this woman who was once so out of reach. In my previous life, to protect her completely, I was killed in a dark alley, yet she didn't even attend my funeral. How ironic her plea sounds now. Miss Su, when you beg someone, you should have the attitude of someone begging. I've seen the restructuring agreement in your hand. I'm not interested. Then what do you want? As long as we can save the Su Group, they'll agree to any condition. I stood up and walked in front of her. She subconsciously took a step back, a flicker of fear in her eyes. I pointed to the folder in her hand, then snatched it and threw it into the shredder. I want 51% of the SU Group's controlling shares, and Su Jiangguo must publicly apologize to me. Impossible. My father will never agree to this condition. I sat back down behind my desk and lit a cigar. Through the swirling smoke, my gaze turned cold and sharp. Then there's nothing more to say. Miss Su, before the market closes tomorrow, I will complete the final acquisition. By then, the Su family won't just lose their company, but will also be saddled with a huge debt. Su Qingying slumped into the chair, her spirit shattered. She looked at me, as if looking at a demon. But I knew I was just taking back the justice that belonged to me. Get out! Don't interrupt my money-making. Su Qingying staggered out of the office. I watched her retreating back, and the last bit of pity in my heart completely vanished. This game has just begun. The Su family is just the first stepping stone for my business empire. I sat in the car, watching the debt collectors gather below the Su Group building. Su Jiangguo must be hiding in his office right now, frantically calling his so-called old brothers. In my past life, these people slapped their chests at the dinner table, promising to look after me. You were struggling to make ends meet back then. I was the one who gave you a hand. Now I want the scattered shares in your hands, and you're talking to me about market price. I heard the roar from the listening device, and a cold smile formed on my lips. Su Jiangguo still doesn't understand. In this circle, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. And I've already offered Lao Li triple the price. If Chairman Su refuses to apologize, then let's make this fire burn a little brighter. I hung up the phone and signaled my secretary to begin phase 2 of the plan. In less than 10 minutes, news that the SU Group was suspected of financial fraud was on the front page of all major financial news sites. This is one of the big gifts I prepared long ago. Every single piece of data was a precise strike at the SU Group's fate. Impossible. Only high-level insiders would know about these books. Chenan, how on earth did you get them? I looked at the tightly shut window on the top floor of the building, as if I could see the desperate expression on Su Jiangguo's face. In my previous life, to help him cover up these loopholes, I worked overtime day and night, even resorting to taking out high-interest loans. This life, this data has become his ticket to hell. Uncle Su, this is just the beginning. The stock price immediately hit its limit down. The market value of the Su Group evaporated by billions in just a short hour. I knew Su Jiangguo's final psychological defense had crumbled. In this dog-eat-dog world, he no longer has any room to bargain. At dusk, a heavy rain fell over Modu. I walked out of the building holding an umbrella and immediately saw Su Qingying standing in the rain. She wasn't holding an umbrella, completely soaked. Her once proud spine now seemed a little stooped. Seeing me appear, she immediately rushed forward, but was stopped a few steps away by my bodyguards. Chenan, I beg you to meet my father. He had a heart attack and was hospitalized. He wants to apologize to you in person. I paused, through the curtain of rain, looking at her. Rain streamed down her cheeks, making it impossible to tell if it was tears or rain. In my past life, on a rainy night just like this one, I ran all over half the city to buy her a piece of cake she had casually mentioned. I ran all over half the city, only to be met with her words. It's too sweet, throw it away. An apology? If it were useful, then what would be the point of the police? Miss Su, go home. Stop putting on a tragic play here. You weren't like this before. Before, you would be heartbroken all day, even if I just caught a cold. Why have you become so cold-blooded now? Because the Chenin who felt heartbroken for you has already died once in that dark alley. In my eyes now, there is only profit and loss. I walked around her, heading towards the Rolls-Royce parked by the road. Su Qingying wailed desperately behind me, but my heart remained unmoved. In my eyes, this kind of belated affection is cheaper than dirt. As long as you're willing to spare the Su family, they'll agree to anything, even marriage. Miss Su, your current worth doesn't even qualify you to be a receptionist at my Wangchao capital. The car door closed, shutting out the wind, rain, and cries from outside. I watched the white figure grow smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror and poured myself a glass of red wine. This round, I won completely. The Su Group's shareholder meeting was held on schedule. I pushed open the heavy wooden doors, and the once noisy meeting room instantly fell silent. I walked straight to the chairman's seat that symbolized power. That place used to belong to Su Jiangguo, but now it's mine. President Chen, you see, we've all signed the transfer agreements for the shares in our hands. In the future, we'll be counting on you to lead the Su Group. These old foxes change faces faster than they flip pages in a book. Yesterday, they were helping Su Jiangguo strategize. Today, they can't wait to pledge allegiance to the new master. I flipped open the document in front of me and scanned everyone sitting there. From today onwards, this place will no longer be called the Su Group, but will be renamed Wangchao Technology. All direct relatives of the Su family must leave the company within 1 hour. As soon as the words left my mouth, a commotion arose from a corner of the meeting room. Su Yue rushed in, his face flushed, clearly unable to accept this reality. Chen, on what grounds are you kicking me out? This company belongs to my family. You're just a bastard who got lucky. Didn't you hear what I just said? The bodyguards quickly moved forward and dragged Su Yue out like a little chick. His curses echoed in the hallway, but not a single shareholder dared to speak up for him. I turned my head to look at Su Qingying, who was sitting in the last row. Her head was bowed, her hands clasped tightly together. Miss Su, for old time's sake, I'll leave you a house. Move your father there. At least you won't have to live on the streets. Su Qingying slowly raised her head, her eyes as vacant as a puppet's. She stood up and left the meeting room without a word. I knew her last bit of pride had been completely crushed by me here today. Standing on the rooftop, the entire night view of the Huangpu River came into sight. But I knew this was just a foundation stone for my business empire. The real challenge has just begun. Brother Chen, you handled the Su family's matter so cleanly. But the chip project land you've been eyeing recently? I'm afraid it won't be easy to get. Mr. Li, have you heard something? Mr. Li pointed to a table not far away, where a woman was sitting, her gaze sharp, like an unsheathed sword. She is Shen Ruoxi, also the overlord of the artificial intelligence field for the next 10 years. The Shen family has also set their sights on that project. Shen Ruoxi, this woman is nicknamed the Red-Haired Witch. Her methods are a bit more ruthless than you can imagine. Good. Opponents who are too weak aren't any fun to play against. As if sensing my gaze, Shen Ruoxi turned and raised her glass towards me. Her smile carried a sense of scrutiny and provocation. In my past life, the Shen family only entered the Modu market 3 years later. I didn't expect that because of my rebirth, the butterfly effect has caused this formidable opponent to appear earlier. Shen Ruoxi. In my past life, when you were calling the shots in the business world, I was still a driver for Su Qingying. In this life, I want to see who the real winner is. I responded with a polite smile, then turned and left. I need to readjust my business plan. The appearance of the Shen family is a variable, but for me, it's an even bigger opportunity. If I can swallow the Shen family's territory in the south, my Wangchao capital will be unrivaled. After completing the handover procedures, some impulse made me drive back to the slum where I used to live. The place was still dark and damp, the air filled with the smell of cheap cigarettes and garbage. I saw a familiar figure, struggling to carry a cardboard box. It was Su Qingying. Didn't expect this, did you? I ended up in the place where you used to live. Is this the revenge you wanted? She leaned against a mottled wall, holding a cheap box of instant noodles. The great miss, who once wouldn't step into any restaurant that wasn't top tier, now has to bargain with the landlord over 100 yuan in rent. I never thought of taking revenge on you. I only took back what belonged to me. As for how you live, it has nothing to do with me. Chenin, if I hadn't taken that check back then, if you hadn't been reborn, would you have loved me for a lifetime? Hearing this question, I was stunned for a moment and burst out laughing. This question troubled me for a long time in my past life, but at this moment, it seemed so bland and powerless. There are no ifs, Miss Su. One can't keep living in the past. I took a wad of cash out of my pocket and placed it on the cardboard box next to her. This isn't pity, but a complete severance. This is the last time I'll help you. Don't let me see you again. I turned and walked quickly towards the luxury car parked at the end of the alley. Su Qingying's sobbing came from behind, echoing in the narrow alley. I started the engine and drove towards the brightly lit city center without looking back. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the clouds over Modu hung heavy. Shen Ruoxi sat across from me. She wasn't wearing her signature black suit, but a dark purple cheongsam instead. She looked gentle, but the aggression in her eyes hadn't diminished at all. I lowered my head and fiddled with the tea set. Boiling water poured into the pot, white steam rising. President Chen, I heard that for that chip project, you completely trampled the Su family underfoot. President Shen, your news travels fast. It's just a normal business replacement. I wouldn't call it trampling. I poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of her. In my past life, Shen Ruoxi was famous for her ruthlessness in the business world. She was best at using information asymmetry to corner her opponents. Too bad today she's facing someone with 10 years of foresight. That project, the Shen family is determined to have it. Name your price, withdraw from the bidding. President Shen, do you think I'm short on money? She was stunned for a moment, clearly not expecting me to refuse so decisively. She has investigated my background. In her files, I am probably still the poor kid who would sell his dignity for a 10 million yuan check. Who could sell his dignity? What she doesn't know is, my appetite now is much larger than she imagines. Chen An, business is a long game. Offending the Shen family won't do your Wangchao capital any good. President Shen, I have a bad habit. The more others tell me not to touch something, the more I want to try. The atmosphere between us instantly dropped to freezing point. Shen Ruoxi didn't touch the teacup. She stood up, her high heels making crisp clicking sounds on the floor. As she reached the door, she paused for a moment and tilted her head to look. I hope your bravado can last until next week's auction. The door closed. I put down the teacup, watching the roiling clouds outside the window. The Shen family's intervention is indeed a nuisance, but on the list in my head, next week, Shen Ruoxi will fall into a capital chain crisis due to a failed overseas merger. This is my confidence. The hallway here was eerily quiet, the air filled with the smell of disinfectant. I pushed the door open and saw Su Jianguo lying in the hospital bed, an oxygen tube in his nose. After just half a month, he had lost a lot of weight, and his hair had turned completely white. Su Qingying sat by the bed, peeling an apple with her head down. What are you doing here? To laugh at us? I'm not that free. I came to tell Chairman Su something. Su Jianguo slowly opened his eyes, his cloudy gaze focusing on me. He moved his lips, his voice hoarse, almost inaudible. I walked to the bedside, looking at the man who once threw a check in my face. You won. The Su group is gone. What more do you want? I want the property deed for the Su family's old factory land in Shenzhen. In exchange, I will cover all of your medical expenses and arrange a decent job for Su Qingying. The apple in Su Qingying's hand fell to the floor and rolled to my feet. She looked at me, her eyes filled with humiliation and resentment, but even more so, a sense of powerlessness. She knew the Su family now didn't even have the right to refuse. Chennen, must you buy up the last bit of our dignity? Dignity is earned, not given by others. Chairman Su, sign it. Su Jianguo tremblingly signed the document. I took back the document without giving them another glance. That old factory land, beneath it lies a future subway line that the government will plan into a central business district. In the previous life, the Su family sold it to the Zhao family because they didn't know its value. In this life, this juicy piece of meat belongs to me. Report to Wangchao Capital's HR department tomorrow to be my personal assistant. This is your last chance. I walked out of the hospital room. Su Qingying didn't follow. I knew she would come because she no longer had any other choice. Su Qingying wore a dark gray business suit, standing in front of my desk. She looked very constrained, her hands tightly gripping a file folder. I didn't look up, continuing to flip through the bid proposal in my hand. Assistant Su, make 10 copies of this document. At 3 p.m., go meet Shen Ruoxi with me. The Shen family's influence in Jingcheng is immense. Do you really want to confront her head-on? I put down my pen and looked up at her. There was still a lingering arrogance in her eyes, but more so, a compromise with reality. You only need to execute, you don't need to ask questions. The atmosphere at the afternoon auction was extremely tense. Shen Ruoxi sat on the left with her team, everyone looking determined to win. I sat on the right, behind me, only Su Qingying followed. When the host announced the start of the auction, Shen Ruoxi made an extremely high bid. President Chen, are you still going to follow this price? I won't follow, but I suggest President Shen take her secretary's call first. Shen Ruoxi frowned. Her secretary hurried in and whispered a few words in her ear. Shen Ruoxi's face immediately turned pale. I remember very clearly, just 10 minutes ago, the Shen family's merger in Europe was urgently halted due to regulatory violations. Their capital chain had been broken. You did this? I just knew the outcome. In advance, President Shen. If the Shen family can't produce the money now, then I won't be polite about this project. I raised my paddle and made a bid slightly lower than the Shen family's. The whole hall was in an uproar. Shen Ruoxi stared at me, her gaze as if wanting to flay me alive. Su Qingying stood behind me, completely stunned. Perhaps this was the first time she had seen that a battle in the business world could be so cruel and precise. After the auction ended, I stepped out of the elevator and found Shen Ruoxi leaning against my car door. She looked a little pathetic, her usually neat hair slightly disheveled. She held a cigarette in her hand, but it wasn't lit. Chen An. Who on earth are you? A kid in his 20s can't possibly have such vision and methods. Who am I? It doesn't matter. What's important is Director Shen needs a sum of money right now to fill the hole in Europe. He suddenly raised his head to look at me. His eyes were full of vigilance. His most secret crisis was casually spoken by me. I walked in front of him, took the cigarette from his hand, and casually tossed it into the trash. The Xin family's foundation in Jingcheng is very deep. I don't want to fight a life-or-death battle with you. I want control of all the artificial intelligence laboratories in the south. In exchange, I will inject 5 billion in capital to help you overcome this difficulty. You're taking advantage of a crisis. That's right. But Director Shen should know very well. Besides me, no one else dares to invest in you at this moment. Shen Ruoxi was silent for a long time. He is a smart person. He knows which is more important between pride and survival. He looked at me. A flash of complex emotion passed through his eyes. There was hatred, but more than that, an indescribable awe. It's a deal. But I have one condition. I want to buy shares in Dynasty Capital. Fine. But you can only receive dividends. You cannot participate in decision-making. I opened the car door and motioned for Su Qingying to get in. Su Qingying looked at Shen Ruoxi, then looked back at me. Her eyes were filled with shock. She once thought Shen Ruoxi was an invincible legend, but in front of me, this legend crumbled in less than an hour. The Shanghai bund at night was unrealistically beautiful. I sat at the table. Opposite me was Su Qingying. She worked very hard today. She even proactively worked overtime, helping me organize the documents for the Xin family's laboratory. She is now more and more like a qualified assistant, not the pampered young lady from before. Chen An, thank you for my father's medical expenses and for showing me all this today. No need to thank me. This is your payment for your work, Su Qingying. In this world, weakness is the original sin. She said nothing, just quietly looked out at the river. I know what she's thinking. She's thinking, if she had treated me a little better 3 years ago, would the current outcome be different? But in my heart, I knew it wouldn't. Obtaining the Shen family's laboratory means I have secured a ticket into the field of artificial intelligence. I ordered a bottle of red wine from the Zhao family to the Su family, and then taming the Shen family to become my partner. The events of this past half-month have been more spectacular than the 10 years of my previous life. Will you continue to target the Su family in the future? The Su family is no longer worthy of being my target. My goal is the vast sea of stars. I raised my wine glass and drank it all in one go. Su Qingying looked at me. Her eyes held emotions she never had before, but I no longer cared. I stood up and adjusted my suit, preparing to face tomorrow's trading session. My dynasty has only just laid its foundation. In the laboratory, hundreds of servers emitted a low hum. This place originally belonged to the Xin family, but now it bears the label of Dynasty Capital. I looked at the dancing data on the screen, knowing very well in my heart, these lines of code are the gold mine for the next 10 years. Su Qingying walked over, holding a stack of reports. Her movements were much quicker than before. It's just that a hint of confusion still flickered in her eyes from time to time. CO Chen, the chief scientist, Dr. Lin, wants to see you. He is very unhappy about you drastically cutting the budget for traditional research. Let him in. Not long after, a gray-haired old man angrily pushed the door and entered. Chen An, do you even understand scientific research? You're pouring all the funding into neural networks. That's a dead end, Dr. Lin. In my world, there are no dead ends, only the fastest path. I casually wrote a few core formulas on the whiteboard. This is stuff that won't be published for another 13 years. Deep learning algorithms? Dr. Lin's previously flushed face immediately stiffened. He stared intently at the whiteboard. His breathing began to quicken. How is this possible? How did you come up with this logic? I am a businessman. I only look at results. Just do as I say. Within 3 months, I want to see Yuan Xingqi. Dr. Lin looked at me as if I were a monster. In the end, he left with the formulas without another word. Su Qingying stood beside me, her eyes filled with awe. She probably feels like there's nothing I don't know, but I know this is just the advantage of foresight. After settling the A matter, I immediately turned my attention to new energy vehicles. In my previous life, this industry created countless trillion-dollar legends. Today, I came here to get the most crucial lithium mining license. The hall was filled with bigwigs. Shen Ruoxi also came. He had regained his former sharp demeanor, chatting with a few foreign businessmen. CO Chen, you're not even done with I yet, and you already want to get into the battery business? Such great ambition, you might bite off more than you can chew. If you don't try, Director Shen, how will you know? By the way, has the Shen family's hole in Europe been filled yet? Shen Ruoxi's expression stiffened slightly. Then, as if nothing happened, he raised his wine glass. He is now my partner, and also my most dangerous rival. A delicate balance is maintained between us. Next, we will announce the company that has won the priority mining rights for the Northwest Lithium Mine. It is Dynasty Capital. The entire hall was in an uproar. Countless eyes turned to me like spotlights. The wine glass in Shen Ruoxi's hand trembled slightly. He looked at me in disbelief. He had clearly allied with 3 other tycoons to corner me, but he never expected that. I had already signed an industrial support agreement directly with the local government. When did you go to the Northwest? My men have been tracking your schedule every day. Director Shen, tracking my car is useless. You should be tracking my heart. I led Su Qingying and strode onto the stage. Su Qingying followed me closely. Today she wore a neat suit, helping me block the reporters trying to surround me. I looked at the scheming faces below the stage. There was only one thought in my mind. I have laid this foundation firmly. Having secured the lithium mine, I returned to Yuncheng to handle one last personal matter. The Su family's old house had been sealed. Su Jiangguo was banned from leaving the country due to suspicion of economic crimes. He could only stay in the old house's annex. I pushed open the door. A musty smell hit my face. Su Jiangguo sat in a wheelchair. His eyes stared blankly out the window. You still came? Are you here to see if I'm dead yet? I came to get back the old things I once gave to Qingying. I pointed to a rusty iron box in the corner. Inside were the gifts that I, in my past life, had saved up for 3 years to buy for Su Qingying. Although they weren't valuable, they were proof of my past foolishness. Su Qingying stood at the door, looking at that box. The rims of her eyes were red. Chen An, I've always kept those things. I didn't throw them away. Keeping them is meaningless now. Chairman Su, the money you owed the bank, I've already helped you pay it all off. Su Jiangguo suddenly turned his head to look at me. A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly extinguished. He knew I didn't do it out of kindness, but to completely sever all karma with the Su family. From now on, you and the Su group have nothing to do with each other anymore. Qingying will stay and work in Modu. Every month, I will pay her enough to support you. I picked up the heavy iron box and walked out of the courtyard without looking back. Su Qingying chased me to the door, wanting to say something, but in the end, she didn't. I threw the box into a roadside trash can and watched as the garbage truck carried it away. At that moment, I felt some kind of shackle in my body completely shatter. 3 in the morning, I was still sitting in the office. In front of me were several smear campaign drafts that had been urgently intercepted, although Zhao Hui was in prison. The remaining forces of the Zhao family weren't completely dead. They allied with some people who were jealous of Dynasty. The freelance media tried to spread rumors that my source of funding was unclear. CEO Chen, the legal department has sent out lawyers' letters, but public opinion is still fermenting. Some people are saying you're engaged in illegal fundraising, trying to touch me with low-level tricks like illegal fundraising. I lit a cigarette, looking out at the quiet street outside the window. In my past life, my reputation was also ruined by such rumors. I even lost my job. But now, I hold absolute power in my hands. Send all our tax certificates and audit reports to the authorities. Also, contact Mr. Li. He'll get on it right away. Chenan, you should rest. You haven't slept for 2 days. I looked at her worried expression. A strange feeling stirred in my heart, but I quickly suppressed it. I don't need concern right now. Only loyalty. Go rest after you're done tomorrow morning. As soon as the market opens, I want those rumor mongers to go bankrupt. The financial circle of Modu will definitely not sleep tonight. I stared at the stock chart like a hunter stalking its prey. Those who hide in the shadows and take pot shots have no idea what kind of opponent they are facing. I don't just see the present. I can also see their every future move. The storm of public opinion subsided, and the rumor-mongering media outlets went bankrupt one by one. Dynasty Capital's market value not only didn't fall, but instead increased by 30%, thanks to Mr. Li's endorsement. I stood on the rooftop. Behind me was the prosperity of all of Modu. Shenroxi approached in high heels, holding a new cooperation agreement in his hand. Chen En, you really don't seem like a 20-year-old. Sometimes I feel like an old demon resides in your body. Is Director Shen praising me, or being sarcastic? He walked to my side and stood shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the river. The Shen family's southern laboratory has been fully merged into Dynasty technology. Our first-generation AI chip is about to go into mass production. This signals that I will officially transform from a speculator into a true industry tycoon. Someone in Jingcheng has their eyes on you. The Shen family can protect you, for a while, but not forever. You need to think of an escape route for yourself. I don't need an escape route. Every step I take forward is a path to survival. Su Qingying came over with a coat and gently draped it over my shoulders. She has grown accustomed to this role now, quiet and dutiful. The arrogance of the young lady from before is gone. I looked at the distant lights, understanding clearly in my heart, the real battle of wits has only just begun. Jingcheng. In my previous life, I didn't even have the right to go there. In this life, I want the people there to remember my name. I turned and strode into the office. Shen Ruoxi and Su Qingying flanked me, following behind. At this moment, I felt an unprecedented sense of power. I'm no longer the poor kid who had a 10 million check thrown in his face. Outside the airplane window were clouds drifting at 10,000 meters. The plane's wing cut across the sky. Destination. Straight to Jingcheng. I leaned back in the spacious leather seat, flipping through the chart of Jingcheng's power players provided by Shen Ruoxi. Su Qingying sat in the adjacent seat, meticulously checking the schedule for after we land. Her level of professionalism now is completely capable of handling the work of a top-tier secretary, CEO Chen. The airport pickup has been arranged, but the young master of the Ai family in Jingcheng has sent word. At tonight's charity banquet, he hopes you can attend on time. The Ai family, the very family that was known in my past life as the Ai family that controlled half of Jingcheng's electronics industry. 2 years from now, the Ai family will collapse due to a capital chain rupture, but right now, they are still untouchable giants. For the Ai family's young master to invite me at this time is clearly a show of force against an outsider like me, Miss Shen reminded me. The Ai family's tactics are very dirty. Should we decline? Why decline? They've already set the stage. If I don't go, how can the show go on? The plane landed smoothly at the capital airport. I stepped out of the cabin. The dry, cold air hit my face. This is no longer the warm Yuncheng, nor the prosperous Modu, but the center of power. I adjusted the collar of my suit. In my previous life, I was just a delivery boy in this city. This life, I want this city to turn its head for me. The car drove steadily into the city center, watching the red walls and green tiles pass by the window. My heart was unusually calm, whether it's the IE family or the power circle in Jingcheng. Before me, a person with 10 years of memories. They are just remnants of an old era. The club. In front of the entrance, luxury cars were like clouds. An attendant in a cheongsam led me inside. Stepping into the main hall, all conversation immediately quieted down. Countless scrutinizing gazes fell upon me. Young Master Yi Feng stood in the middle of the crowd, swirling a tall glass of wine in his hand. His eyes carried a bone-deep arrogance. So this is the Chen and who's been causing a stir in Modu? Xiao Chen doesn't look so special. A burst of laughter erupted from the crowd. Su Qingying stood behind me. Her body stiffened slightly, but she quickly regulated her breathing and stood there calmly. I ignored Yifeng's provocation and went straight to a nearby sofa to sit down. Young Master Ye, 3 heads and 6 arms. That's a monster. I'm just an ordinary person who likes to make money. Make money. Money in Jingcheng isn't that easy to make. I hear you want a piece of this electronics chip pie? I advise you to go back to where you came from lest you lose everything, down to your last pair of underwear. He slammed his wine glass down on the table in front of me. The liquid splashed out. This kind of low-level humiliation. I've seen it many times in my past life. I leisurely took out a handkerchief to wipe my hands and looked up into his eyes. Young Master Yi, instead of worrying about my underwear, you should worry a little about the Ai family's shipment of raw materials being held up in Southeast Asia. If I remember correctly, that's the Ai family's lifeline this year, isn't it? Yifeng's expression changed instantly. That matter was strictly covered up by the Ai family. It was impossible for outsiders to know. He stared at me intently. His eyes revealed a look of horror for the first time. The party is wonderful, but I don't like young Master Yeswine. I left calmly under everyone's gaze. Su Qingying followed me out the main door. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she looked at me. She was probably wondering how many more trump cards I had yet to play. Back at the hotel, I immediately gave the first order. I know where the Ai family's current Achilles heel is. In my past life, the Ai family's collapse began with an internal leak, and the person who leaked the information is now, due to gambling debts, being brutally beaten by Yifeng. Go to the underground casino in the south of the city, find a man named Lao Wu and bring him here. His debts, I will pay double for him. Su Qingying quickly took notes beside me. She was now used to my leap-of-faith decision-making. She no longer asked why, only responsible for executing the work perfectly. An hour later, Lao Wu was brought before me. Xiao Chen, please save me. Yifeng is going to kill me. He can't kill you. Give me the real data from the Ye family's electronic ledgers. I will send you abroad. Lao Wu hesitated for less than 3 seconds before nodding in agreement. In the face of life and death, loyalty isn't worth a dime. After getting the data, I didn't rush to publicize it. Instead, I called Shen Ruoxi directly. You move really fast. The Ai family just made a move and you already have them by their weak spot. Director Shen, prepare the capital tomorrow morning. As soon as the market opens, we will acquire the entire core industry of the Ai family. Hanging up the phone. I walked to the window. The night view of Jingcheng is beautiful, but also full of killing intent. I know that after tomorrow, the Yi family will become history, and the name Dynasty Capital will completely shake Jingcheng. Go and rest. Tomorrow we'll need a lot of energy for the harvest. Su Qingying nodded. She looked at my back. An indescribable worship appeared in her eyes. I knew she was now completely devoted to me. The stock market had only been open for half an hour. The 3 listed companies of the Yi family all hit their limit down. The tycoons in Jingcheng who had been watching from the sidelines could no longer sit still. They looked at the red numbers dancing on the big screen. Their faces were all written with horror. What's happening? The Yi family is being maliciously shorted. Who would have such guts? I sat in the VIP room of the trading floor. In front of me were several computers. Shen Ruoxi sat beside me. He was rapidly executing orders, every move hitting the Ai family's weak spots, as precise as a surgical operation. Chen An, the data you provided is incredible. The Ai family's capital chain is broken. They are completely beyond saving now. This is just the interest. Yesterday, Yifeng said, I wasn't worthy of making money. I have to show him how money is lost. Just then, Yifeng frantically pushed open the VIP room door. His eyes were bloodshot. His tie was askew. The arrogance of last night was gone. He rushed towards me, wanting to grab my collar, but he was pinned to the ground by bodyguards. Chenan, you're a madman. You're courting death. The power circle in Jingcheng won't let you off. Young Master Yi, the power circle only follows the strong. To them, you no longer have any value to exploit. I signaled the bodyguards to throw him out. Su Qingying stood by, watching the once arrogant Yi Feng being dragged away like a dead dog. She sighed softly. This scene reminded her of the Su family from before. Stop sighing. Notify the finance department to begin taking over the Ai family's core assets. I walked out of the trading floor. The sunlight was a bit dazzling. I knew the fall of the Ai family was just the beginning. I have completely stirred the waters of Jingcheng. On the seventh day after the Yi family's collapse, Dynasty Capital's Jingcheng branch was officially established. At the opening ceremony, the Jingcheng tycoons who once looked down on me were now all smiles, lining up to give me their business cards. Profit is the only passport in this circle. CEO Chen is so young and talented. I hope you look after us in Jingcheng from now on. Of course, let's all get rich together. I dealt with these false pleasantries without a ripple in my heart. Su Qingying wore an elegant black formal dress, gracefully moving among the guests, helping me handle the trivial social interactions. She had completely adapted to this high-intensity life. CEO Chen, congratulations. Everyone in Jingcheng knows you now. Chen An is the real golden touch. Director Shen has also earned quite a bit, hasn't he? If it weren't for your capital support, I wouldn't have been able to acquire the Ai family so quickly. Shen Ruoxi smiled. His eyes held a new depth they didn't have before. We are not just partners now, but a community of shared interests. I looked at the noisy crowd below the stage and suddenly remembered the day I was reborn. That 10 million check seems so ridiculous now. Su Jiangguo, do you see this? Back then, you wanted to use money to buy out my future. In the end, it allowed me to buy the expectations of all of Jingcheng. The ceremony ended. I stood on the top floor rooftop, looking down at the brilliant lights of all of Jingcheng. I knew my business map was beginning to take shape. But this is only the foundation. In the future, I will build a commercial empire, a global one belonging to Chen An. CEO Chen, the flight to Modu for tomorrow morning has been booked. Good. Next stop, we're going to retrieve the final piece that belongs to me. I turned and walked towards the desk. The sunset shone on my back, casting a long shadow. This life, I will finally become king. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the Huangpu River flows ceaselessly. After returning from Jingcheng, I didn't rest, but dove straight into arranging the global market layout. Su Qingying stood behind me, skillfully organizing the cross-border merger documents. The arrogance of a young lady in her eyes had faded, replaced by a bit of steadiness honed by adversity. CEO Chen, the North American tech giants can't sit still any longer. They've jointly sent a letter wanting to buy out our core AI algorithm. A buyout? They're afraid of being left completely behind by us. Tell them, Wang Chao Technology doesn't sell technology, we only sell products. I leaned back in the genuine leather swivel chair, looking at the world map on the wall. In my past life, these giants used a technology blockade to suppress us for a full 10 years. In this life, I will show them what it means to have the tables turned. There's one more thing. My father was discharged from the hospital today. He wants to cook a meal for you himself before he returns to his hometown. That's not necessary. Miss Su, I've already said it, between us, there is only work. Help him buy a retirement home in Yuncheng, deduct the money from my personal account. Su Qingying's movement stiffened. She lowered her head, her voice a little choked up. I knew she still hadn't let go, but the door in my heart had been tightly shut since the day I was reincarnated. Get back to work. This afternoon's meeting with Shen Ruoxi is very important. Don't let any mistakes happen. She took a deep breath, wiped the corners of her eyes, and returned to her professional state. I looked at her retreating figure, my heart unusually clear. In this life, I am no longer an accessory to anyone. I am the master of this grand chess game. After finishing overtime, I walked alone along the riverbank. The night wind was very cold, blowing away more than half of my tipsiness. Su Qingying ran after me, handing me a coat. She looked at me, her eyes holding a long suppressed emotion, as if it could burst forth at any moment. Chenan, if I hadn't accepted that check back then, if you were still that poor boy from the past, would you, even just a little bit, still love me like before? I stopped walking and turned to look at her. The riverside lights cast a pale glow on her face. This question I had asked countless times in my previous life, but in this life, it was her turn to ask. Su Qingying, the cheapest thing in this world is deep affection that comes too late. I know I was wrong. I really regret it. For the past half year, I've watched you climb to the peak step by step, and only then did I realize I had lost the most precious treasure in this world. You regret it because I'm standing at the top now. If you still saw Chenan, like a speck of dust holding an umbrella for you in the rain, you would only find it annoying. I didn't take the coat, letting it fall to the ground. I looked at the surging river and felt an unprecedented sense of liberation in my heart. Miss Su, the job I give you is a recognition of your efforts during this time. If you want to talk about personal feelings, you can submit your resignation tomorrow. Su Qingying collapsed onto the bench, covering her face and sobbing silently. I didn't look back and strode towards the car parked by the road. At this moment, the licking dog Chenan of the past and I were completely severed. The night before the global launch press conference, Shen Ruoxi suddenly appeared in my office with her legal team. She held an agreement in her hand, her eyes showing an unprecedented seriousness. I knew this woman had finally shown her fangs. Chenan, the Shen family wants to invest more capital. We want to acquire 40% of Wang Chao Technology shares. CEO Shen, are you trying to stage a takeover? Shen Ruoxi walked up to me, placed both hands on my desk, her presence overwhelming. Behind her was Jing Cheng. The Shen family was clearly not satisfied with just being a partner. They wanted to control this future artificial intelligence empire. This is the will of the old master of the Shen family. If you don't agree, all of the Shen family's labs and supply chains in the south will cease operations tomorrow. CEO Shen, do you think that since I dared to let you become a shareholder, I wouldn't have a backup plan? I opened my computer and displayed a hidden structural diagram. Shen Ruoxi looked at the screen, her face turning from white to green. She discovered that the keys to all the core algorithms were scattered throughout the old factory district I had previously acquired in the servers underneath. CEO Shen, if the Shen family wants to withdraw their investment, please feel free. But without me, those labs of the Shen family are nothing but a pile of scrap metal. Shen Ruoxi stared at me intently. After a long moment, she suddenly burst out laughing, a somewhat self-deprecating smile. She put away the agreement and elegantly smoothed her hair. Chenan, you really are a madman. It seems I can only be your obedient partner. A smart choice. A pleasure working with you, CEO Shen. Watching her retreating back, I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. This was a huge gamble. But I won, because I not only know the trends of the future, but also the greed of human hearts. The stage lights focused on the center. Su Qingying, standing in the wings, nervously clenched her fists. I adjusted my tie, and amidst thunderous applause, I slowly walked onto the podium. Today, we will define the future. When I pressed the control button, Wangchao Technology's first-generation General Artificial Intelligence System officially launched. At that moment, the entire hall fell deathly silent. Immediately after came a sky-shattering cheer. I knew that from this moment on, the name Chen An would be written into the history books. My God, this is technology that's 20 years ahead of its time. I looked at the fervent faces below the stage, yet my heart felt few ripples. In my past life when I died in that dark alley, no one knew who I was. But now, the whole world must listen to my voice. CEO Chen, we succeeded. This is just the beginning. Assistant Su, inform the legal department to prepare a draft of the global industry standard. Shen Ruoxi came over and generously gave me a hug. She whispered in my ear, the Shen family is completely convinced. I pushed open the doors of the auditorium. Outside was a sky full of stars and flashing camera lights. At this moment, I finally stood at the highest point. Not for love, not for honor, but for this view from the summit that makes all other mountains seem small. I refused all interviews and went up alone to the rooftop. The wind was very strong, messing up my hair, but it made me feel more clear-headed than ever. I finally understood the greatest meaning of reincarnation isn't revenge, but giving myself the power to choose my own destiny. 1 year later, I returned to Yuncheng. Nothing here had changed, except that the Su and Zhao families had long become topics of idle gossip. I wore a black trench coat, holding a bouquet of white wild chrysanthemums, and stood before an unmarked grave. That was my burial place in my previous life. In this life, I have lived for you, and also taken revenge for you. You can rest in peace now. I placed the bouquet down and turned to see Su Qingying standing not far away. She had resigned and was now a teacher at an elementary school in Yuncheng. She looked much calmer. Her eyes no longer held the greed and arrogance of the past. CEO Chen, long time no see. Long time no see, Teacher Su. We exchanged a few words like ordinary friends and then walked past each other. No clinging, no melodrama, just the tranquility of waking from a dream. Shen Rox's phone call came, telling me that Wangchao Capital's market value had surpassed $1 trillion. Big Boss Chen, where are you planning to go next? To a place where no one knows me to get a good night's sleep. I hung up the phone and turned it off. The sunlight shone on the sea's surface, glistening on the waves. I took the yellowed 10 million check out of my pocket. This was the memento I had always kept. I gently tore it, and the pieces scattered into the sea with the wind. To hell with love, to hell with honor. In this life, I have lived wonderfully. I walked towards the sports car parked by the road, started the engine, and disappeared down the end of the road. The legend of Chen An continues.